Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. This past Saturday I hosted my annual Christmas party. Being self-employed and working from home, my Christmas parties aren't what most people would think of. There is no big corporate gathering of staff and clients at the plaza for the annual champagne reception and jingle mingle, no scandalous dalliances with co-workers in confined closets, and certainly nobody making improper use of the office photocopier. I simply invite all my closest friends for an evening of Christmas cheer and Christmas beer at my home, so we can catch up, be thankful for another year of being friends, and play a few board games. My guests at these parties are the people who are important to me, the ones who keep me sane, my lifeline to the real world outside my front door, and the people who I will bounce games off to get their opinions for my reviews. And having them all around is a wonderful reminder of why I love board games so much. A board game has the power to bring loved ones together around a table. It's an engine to generate conversation, humour, stories, and essentially, memories. I have so many fond memories of previous Christmas parties, and this past weekend I added a few more. But what games did we play? Naturally, for larger gatherings, including some people I don't see that regularly, a lot of the usual sorts of games I play don't fit the bill. Dungeon crawlers, adventure games, games with ongoing campaigns, none of that is right for this kind of event. As such, we tend to lean towards lighter filler games, what you might call party games. Oh, and as it happens, all of the games we played have been reviewed previously on the channel. You will be able to find links to those reviews in the video description below if anything you see here looks interesting and you would like to know more. We started the evening with a quick game of Star Trek Lower Decks Buffer Time the card game. Little game, long title. This cooperative game for 2 to 6 players was new for 2024 and was sent to me for review by Modifius. I thought it was fine. A totally unremarkable game that did exactly what it was supposed to do, was pleasant enough, but didn't really excite me. The idea is that you are members of the crew of a spaceship. You have been allocated 5 assignments. Each assignment will award a small amount of victory points and requires a fixed amount of effort to complete. However, what you really want to do is bunk off and work on your side hobbies. On your turn, you can either draw a shift card in an attempt to add effort to the completion of your current task, or you can add a side project that will earn you more victory points but also adds to the total amount of effort required. The main problem is there are senior officers on watch, and if you pull enough of them from the shift deck, they rumble what you are up to and your current assignment and all current side projects are failed. Each player also has access to a limited number of alpha shift abilities that can remove officers from play, add effort to the current assignment without risk, or score additional victory points. And that's it really. It's a simple push your luck game where for the most part you are either drawing from the shift deck hoping for a good card, or adding a side project to increase the total number of victory points up for grabs. I thought that while everything worked as intended, it was just a bit too chaotic for me. There just didn't seem to be enough ways to mitigate the luck of the draw, and often it felt like success or failure was entirely down to luck, as I didn't have the options to do anything other than pull shift cards. I had kept the game in my collection for 2 reasons. 1, my wife and daughter really enjoy it, and 2, I wanted to run it by all my friends at my Christmas party to see how it went down. And to be fair, it went down as I expected it to. We got in trouble early on with some bad card pulls, had to scramble to stay afloat which burned through our alpha shift abilities, and then we had to ride our luck to failure. Nobody at the table hated it, but nobody was really engaged either, and there was a unanimous vote not to play a second round and to move on to something different. If you are looking for a lightweight push your luck filler game, and especially if you are a fan of the Lower Decks TV show, you may want to give this one a try. But with the exception of my wife and daughter, it hasn't been much of a hit at ABNB HQ. Having binned off Lower Decks, back by popular demand was Endless Pass: A Viking Saga from WizKids. This is not one of my favourite games, but I like it well enough. We had played it at last year's Christmas party, and several people wanted to give it another go, so that is exactly what we did. It's a fairly quick, fairly light competitive push your luck game for 2 to 6 players who are taking on the role of Vikings, looking for glory or death in the final battle of Ragnarok. On your turn, you can either play a hide card, which will allow you to avoid conflict with any monsters in front of you, in which case your turn ends and you can send the monsters onto the players to your left or right, or you can choose to walk the pass. This gives you a chance to draw from the pass deck, which will either grant you valuable runes and powerful weapons, or monsters. Having walked the pass, you must face all the monsters in front of you. You can kill them with a sword or some Greek fire, or negate their attacks with evade and block cards. Killed monsters score glory, and then you will take damage from each monster that you did not kill or evade. Take too much damage, and you die. If you survive the encounter, you can then start bullying other players. You can attack the player to your left or right with a sword, or attack anyone at the table with Greek fire. A player targeted with a sword can evade or block the attack, or counterattack with a sword card of their own, which then forces the original aggressor to evade, block, or counter. Meanwhile, a player targeted with Greek fire can either evade the attack or bounce the bomb back with a shield, in which case the first player must evade, take the hit, or play their own shield to bounce it back again. This absolutely can get as comical as it sounds. Winning a fight with another Viking lets a player steal 1 health or 1 glory, and then any surviving monsters move on to the next player. Repeat until someone scores 10 glory or there is only 1 Viking left standing. It's a fun little game, but it is quite chaotic, with a heavy dose of luck involved. Sometimes you will walk the pass and only find monsters. Another time you will find all the best weapons and become a powerhouse. But it's one of those games where it doesn't really matter, because the real joy comes from being the bravest Viking you can be, and dropping a Greek firebomb on your best mates when they are already very badly burnt. We ended up playing 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds we were all quite quickly overwhelmed by monsters, but the third round ran a little longer with lots of interaction between the players. Everyone got into the spirit of the game, everyone was laughing, everyone was poking fun at each other and rolling out quips at each new misfortune. So it did exactly what it's supposed to do and what I expect of it. Overall, I think this is a good Christmas party game as long as you don't play with people who get upset if they get ganged up on or if they get hit with bad luck there is nothing they can do about. Next on the agenda was a game I picked up at the UK Games Expo back in the summer, Grindhouse. This is a wonderful, silly, competitive game for 2 to 8 players from Everything Epic. The high player count and incredibly simple rules make it a good fit for a party with a larger gathering, but obviously you do need to pay attention to the theme and how it's going to go down with your guests. It is incredibly gruesome. Each player takes on the role of a contestant in a house of horrors, where they must progress through a series of grisly challenges that could result in serious permanent injuries or even death. Injuries are tracked on a character board with full body art, and as you add tokens, you get a visual representation of how much torment you have been through, with severed limbs and exploding heads. As a result, this is not one for younger gamers, or anyone of a delicate disposition. The artwork is cartoony, the violence is over the top and purposefully exaggerated, but it's still not the right fit for every crowd. It was the perfect fit for us though. As far as gameplay goes, there really isn't much to it. Each player has a secret persona and 1 secret item. They all go into a room, read the description, and then resolve the challenge. This often involves 1 or more people having to volunteer for something without necessarily knowing what will happen if they do, and then rolling dice. Survivors then move on to the next room. It sounds like something of nothing, but for me, it's sort of a cross between Escape the Dark Castle and Dungeon Quest. You are presented with narrative situations, and the real fun comes from seeing how long you can survive and what terrible things will happen to you and your friends along the way. An interesting twist is that if you die, you can still win. Every persona has a win condition for while you are alive, and another for when you die. But really, winning doesn't matter. We played 2 rounds, and it was an absolute blast. We walked across minefields, bobbed for keys in buckets of glass, and fought a werewolf in hand-to-hand combat. I was one of several winners in the first game despite being dead, and I lost a second game despite being alive. It's all very silly. At this point, some guests were drifting away, but to round out the evening with those who were left, we played a couple of rounds of Book of the Dead from Midlam Miniatures. This is a really fun cooperative game for 2 to 6 players. The players are attempting to reassemble the Necronomicon by creating a continuous stack of double-sided cards, where at least one icon on each side of the card matches an icon on the facing side of the next card. Players can pull a card from the vortex of cards on the table, combine their stacks with other players, add their stacks to the book, discard pages, or pull pages from the book if they really need to, and it all has to be done in 9 minutes. It's a solid game with a unique concept. When I reviewed it back in November, I lamented that I had never managed to win, yet we played twice at the Christmas party and scored 2 wins with a decent amount of time to spare. We even won a game despite losing the dice off the table and burning well over 30 seconds looking for it. And that was how my Christmas party came to a close. There were other games we could have played and wanted to, but there is only so much gaming you can cram into a single evening when you are also eating, drinking, and catching up with people you haven't seen for a while. With more time at our disposal, we probably would have played Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is an excellent game with larger groups. But I guess we will just have to do that next time. For now, I am going to wrap up. If you have a Christmas gaming session lined up for December, please share which games will be hitting your table in the comments below. And as always, if you like the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.